It's a very soft landing. Just perception. There it is.
Katy! Woo! I feel super connected to love.
Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the beginning of space tourism. Now, when I say welcome, I don't mean that you're invited, because unless you're a multi-millionaire, this is not something that's in your tax bracket. Instead, what I actually mean is, welcome to an era where rich people can literally take a break from Earth and all its problems. A few days ago, the company Blue Origin took 7 female passengers to space. But who exactly were these 7 lucky women who got to go to space for 10 minutes? So we've got pop star Katy Perry, journalist Gayle King, the fiancé of Jeff Bezos, Lauren Sanchez, who was kind of the leader and face of the whole thing. We also had former NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bowe, filmmaker Carrie-Anne Flynn, and activist and bioastronautics researcher Amanda. And after their trip, many news outlets and reporters started calling them astronauts.
Congratulations, you are officially an astronaut. Gayle King, you are officially an astronaut. You are an astronaut. You are an astronaut. Congratulations, you are officially an astronaut. Or officially an astronaut. Thank you so much.
But they're clearly not astronauts, which is why I call them 7 passengers. They may all be successful and accomplished in their own fields, but that does not make them astronauts. Because being an astronaut is an actual career, and it requires years of specialized training, education, physical tests, and multiple simulations just to go to space.
Okay, I'm going to show you the capsule that we have been training in for the last few days. Here I am. Seat number 2. This is my call name, Feather. And these are all of my astronaut girly friends.
You don't get to train for just 2 days and then get to call yourself an astronaut. Some media outlets are also calling them the first all-female group to go to space since the 1960s. And while there is some truth to that claim, it's not entirely accurate. Because again, the women who have been to space before were part of the crew and were actual career astronauts and not just passengers. And it's very important to make that distinction, because framing it this way downplays the work of real female astronauts who go to space all the time. It was barely a month ago when Sunita Williams was all over the news for finally coming back home with her crew after being stranded in space for 9 months. Of course, there's still a long way to go, but women have been taking up space in space.
Taking up space!
And fun fact, the person who holds the record for the most cumulative days in space at 675 days total is actually a woman named Peggy Whitson. But moving away from the semantics of wanting to be called astronauts, they also want their trip to be considered as a flight and not a ride.
I don't like that people are calling it a ride. A ride, you never see a male astronaut who's going up in space and they said, oh, he took a ride. We actually duplicated the route that Alan Shepard did. That's why this particular capsule is called the New Shepard. We duplicated that route. No one said he took that ride. Yeah. It's always referred to as a flight or a journey. So I feel that that's a little disrespectful to what the mission was and what the work that Blue Origin does.
To call it a flight and not a ride would again be inaccurate. The man that she's referring to in the video is Alan Shepard, who was a trained astronaut who actually piloted the very spacecraft that he was in. On the other hand, these women were on a ship that flew autonomously, simply meaning that it was operated from the ground. No one on board had to steer, push buttons, or do anything beyond floating and enjoying their experience. It wasn't a mission, it was a luxury ride. And it was also a way to promote this space tour to other rich people who want to go to space. Now, I don't just want to look at this entire situation from a completely negative point of view, because if you do look past the very famous faces of Katy Perry, Lauren Sanchez, and Gayle King, whose celebrity status as well as their own words and actions have turned this entire situation into a media circus, If you do pay attention to the other women, they did have deeper messages that they were trying to highlight.
My name is Aisha Bowe. I'm a former NASA rocket scientist, entrepreneur, and the newest Blue Origin astronaut.
My name is Amanda Nguyen.
I'm the very same person that I think we're hoping to inspire. My middle school watch, my high school watch, they're cardboard cutouts. And kids are standing next to this cutout and they're like, yes. They're so excited. And they realize that space includes them too.
I felt like today was justice for me. It was healing, and I know that justice comes in different forms for people. My journey started a decade ago as a student at Harvard, MIT, NASA. It was my dream to do this. And unfortunately, like half of the women in STEM, gender-based violence, deterred me from achieving those dreams in the way that I had envisioned. And I felt like today I was able to honor that person who sacrificed that in order to fight for rights. As a survivor, I put aside those astronaut dreams. A lot of activism comes at the personal cost. My personal cost was the stars, but today that is no longer a cost.
From the position of representation, it is powerful for kids, especially girls, to see women going to space and feeling like, hey, maybe I can do that too. And it's also inspiring for kids to see women of color who look like them be represented in this field. And I do agree with all of that because representation does matter. A lot of people have chosen their careers based on a character they saw on TV or a real person who broke barriers and made it to the top. However, despite the good intentions, I can still have very valid criticisms, such as this wasn't a job that they trained for or earned through a career path. Instead, like I said earlier, this was a paid luxury experience. To put it simply, it's like someone flying on a plane for the first time as a passenger and then saying that their presence was inspiring. It might make someone dream of flying, but the real inspiration is the pilot, the one who is actually flying the plane. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is some of the interviews after they came back from space. And out of all of them, the one that went the most viral was definitely Katy Perry's.
I feel super connected to love. So connected to love. I think this experience has shown me you never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give and how loved you are until the day you launch.
I'm glad that she got to go to space and see Earth from the best angle possible, but I don't know how I feel about her saying that the experience was love and that it taught her about love, especially when Blue Origin is owned by Jeff Bezos, who also owns Amazon, the very same company where workers are constantly striking and fighting just to get fair pay and better working conditions.
Amazon workers at this facility here in Queens, New York, actually went on strike. The union says it represents 10,000 Amazon workers who are demanding better pay and working conditions. It says the company refused to negotiate with it.
I think we've been very clear that management and AFSET has been engaging in blatant intimidation and retaliation tactics against Amazon workers. And to be very clear, we're not going anywhere. This company promises fair pay and fair hours, but you flex us without care for our time and without extra pay. As corporate profits rise, our pay stays the same.
Then there is Lauren Sanchez, who in her interview starts talking about how there are these things that divide us, and if you really, really look at it, we're not that divided.
We're so connected, more connected than you realize, because you just see right here, you see states and all these things that divide us, but we're not.
So she's not being direct because what she's actually talking about is borders. Borders are the things that divide all of us. Which is incredibly ironic for her to say when she was front row at a certain administration's inauguration. So it's one thing for regular people like you and I to talk about how this was a very out of touch move or how their comments felt disconnected from reality. But it's another thing when other celebrities begin to call them out. Because usually, other celebrities don't say a word, and it's just regular people who call this out. So maybe this time, people won't see this as normal people being jealous, and will actually listen to the real concerns that people have.
What are you guys gonna do up in space? What are you doing up there? It's so much money to go to space.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who can't even afford eggs.
Last second, they added me to space, and I'm going to space. I'm bringing this thing. It has no meaning to me, but it was in my bag, and I was like on the subway, and I got the text, and they were like, "Do you want to go to space?" So I'm going to space.
Space mission this morning. That's end time. Like, this is beyond parody. Saying that you care about Mother Earth and it's about Mother Earth, and you're going up in a spaceship that is built and paid for by a company that's single-handedly destroying the planet. Look at the state of the world and think about how many resources went into putting these women into space. For what? For what was the marketing there? And then to try to make it like, I'm disgusted, literally, I'm disgusted.
My least favorite thing about this entire situation is finding out through Gayle King that Blue Origin as a company is potentially working on sending our trash into space, as if that's something to celebrate.
What Blue Origin wants to do is take the waste here and figure out a way to put it in space to make our planet cleaner. I mean, Jeff Bezos has so many ideas, and the people that are working there are really devoted and dedicated to making our planet a better place.
Sending our trash to space is expensive, risky, and it's not a permanent solution. It would take multiple rocket launches just to send some trash into space, and it still wouldn't leave a dent in the amount of trash that we still have on Earth. And with every launch, they would be releasing a massive amount of carbon into the atmosphere, only making pollution worse and not better. On top of that, having trash in space means that it could potentially crash into satellites, space stations, or even fall back down onto Earth. So instead of using that kind of money, technology, and resources to actually fix things on Earth, like reducing pollution or helping people affected by climate change, they would rather have a temporary solution that simultaneously pollutes the very Earth that they are trying to clean up. Whenever we talk about improving the Earth or the wealthy contributing to helping improve the Earth, there is always a group of people who say things like, why is it the responsibility of a space company or a billionaire to fix Earth? But here's the thing. In this case, I'm not the one saying that. They are. Their whole slogan is literally, for the benefit of Earth. That's their mission statement. So if your goal is to make Earth better, how does going to space help? Space isn't Earth. And if your main mission is to improve life here, wouldn't it make more sense to actually fix some of the problems on Earth instead of trying to fly away from them? And this is why I always remind people, when we are being told to focus on paper straws or reusable water bottles, as much as individual action is helpful, it is not the root of the problem or the largest contributor to that problem. The planet isn't being destroyed by everyday people. It's being destroyed by a small group of massive corporations, industries, and billionaires. And the very sad reality is that the same people who are destroying the Earth are the only ones who will be able to leave it. In order to book your flight to space, you need to pay a non-refundable fee of $150,000. And that's as much information as we know. It could cost more, but they're not going to release that information to the public. Either way, this is not something that is accessible for the average person. So even if you save your money, you are not going to be able to book that ticket, especially in this time of economic uncertainty.
And then my question is, have y'all been to space? Have you been to space? Go to space or go to Blue Origin and see what they do and how they do, and then come back and say, this is a terrible thing.
One day, if the Earth becomes too polluted or just too dangerous, the rich will book a flight. They will head off to some luxury space station, or they will set up camp on Mars. And the rest of us will be left behind to figure it out. And that's why recently I don't enjoy watching dystopian movies, because every day they don't feel like works of fiction, but instead they're they're starting to feel like real-life documentaries. And with that being said, this does bring me to the end of my video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. These are just my thoughts, and I'd love to know yours down in the comment section below. Remember to like this video, it really helps with the algorithm, and if you enjoyed this one, then kindly check out some of my other videos and subscribe for more content on the way. Again, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully, I'll catch you in my next video.